Hi, everyone. I'm Jamie Vaughn with the podcast How She Got There. And today we are talking to Abbie Bys from Lumiere, a GHX company, where she is the executive director and product lead. Hi, Abbie. How are you?
Hi, Jamie. I'm doing well today. We've got 40-degree weather here in Chicago, so looking like spring's around the corner.
Yeah, we're in Nashville, and I think we're in fake spring. It's
Yes.
going to be nice 60s, 70s this week, and then it will be frigid weather, and then we'll get into pollen season where everything turns yellow. So
Mhm.
that's real spring.
Yep, fake spring. That's a real thing.
Yeah, it is. So I would love for you to tell our audience like where you grew up and what you were wanting to be when you were growing up, so we can kind of show them that journey of where you are now.
Sure. I grew up in small town Iowa. I graduated from high school in Sumner, Iowa. I always worked on the farm. My first job was picking rock. I saved up for my first car by detasseling in the summer. Worked in a milking barn. And actually, one of the things that helped me a lot was that I knew how to work QuickBooks. And so during the tax season, I would actually help farmers get all of their inputs into Quicken.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's
Yeah.
something that a high schooler knows how to do generally. Do I
Yeah.
need to know what detasseling is?
Detasseling is a action of removing the male pollen
Oh,
stalk off the top of the corn so
okay.
that the corn seeds remain the strain of corn that you want it to be and they don't cross pollinate.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, what did you go and major in college?
I majored in biomedical engineering.
Okay.
I just really fell into that because they were like, "Oh, you're really good at math and science.
Hmm.
So come do biomedical engineering at the University of Iowa." Um, I actually really wanted to run a funeral home, and I think upon reflecting upon that, at 18 years old, they just had the most beautiful house, and they
Oh,
were always had great business. So I was like, "That's a good business model. Maybe I should do that."
yeah. Very
Um,
solid business. I do think it takes somebody special to deal with that every day.
Yes, for sure.
So, what was your first job experience out of college?
Oh, man. Well, I graduated college in 2007, which was a
Mhm.
fairly rough, time to graduate college. I always say you had to have a degree to answer a phone
Mhm.
pretty much at that point. Um, I searched around for a while. I, moved to Chicago. I really wanted to live there, but just really couldn't find any, jobs that I fit in Chicago, and so, actually, after a year of looking in Chicago, I had to move back home to Iowa, and ended up getting a job at a great place called Integrated DNA Technologies,
Mhm.
and I worked as a technical services engineer there, really both helping research companies figure out what DNA oligos to order for their DNA research, but also helping educate consumers on the tools that they also offered, the
Mhm.
software tools.
And was it a job that you ended up enjoying, or was it something that made you realize this is not what I want to do?
Definitely the customer service aspect made me realize this is not
Yeah.
something I want to be doing. Um, and there was an definitely a part of it that was sales, and I just could not. I was not very good at sales.
Mhm.
So in 2009, I actually left and went to the Peace Corps. And I served 3 years in Peace Corps in Ecuador as an
Mhm.
agribusiness volunteer.
Okay, I don't think I know anyone who's actually gone and done the Peace Corps. Everyone always says, "Oh, I'm just going to leave and join the Peace Corps," but it's pretty impressive that you are one of those that actually did it. What kind of process is that, and what did you end up doing in Ecuador?
Ooh, I'm unsure what the process is today, but
Mhm.
when I did it, it was pretty strenuous. So, application process, including essays, and then anything that they flagged in your essays, such as you were a vegetarian or you maybe had a relationship at home, anything like that, you had to have follow up interviews to talk about what would happen when you were in country
Wow.
and experience things like like I experienced, I was a vegetarian at the time. And one of my first home dinners, they killed a chicken specifically for me to celebrate
Mhm.
it. So was I going to eat this? Absolutely. And so I unbecame a vegetarian in the Peace Corps. Um, they also, you do a physical, so you have to physically pass and be prepared to go and serve in a community that doesn't have a lot of healthcare. Um,
Mhm.
it always, I reflected like if I fell down and broke my leg, it is not like the United States where an ambulance would come and get you. You would have
Right.
to, one of your neighbors would have to drive you down a dirt road an hour and a half to a hospital. So that would be quite the experience.
So what were some of the things that you did while you were there?
Yeah. So my primary goal was to focus on increasing household income through,
Mhm.
very small businesses. So one of the things we did was baking sweetbreads like zucchini bread, banana bread like that, something that someone could sell for increased value.
Mhm.
In Ecuador, they actually eat guinea pig or cuy,
Yeah.
as they call it. So we had a guinea pig project. Where we would raise guinea pigs and then you would give your neighbor a breeding pair of guinea
Uh-huh.
pigs. Um, we also made a wine out of a fruit called borojo there. I made it with the high schoolers, which just the irony of that was never lost on me because that would never happen in the States. And it was great for selling to a local tourist community that was there doing bird watching because it was fermented and you could actually take it home. Where any sort of borojo products that weren't fermented are technically you can't bring them into the United States.
Mhm. Okay. So after you left the Peace Corps, where did you end up going?
After I left the Peace Corps, I worked a lot of like contract jobs. So
Mhm.
interestingly enough, one of the first jobs was running a booth at the Chicago Auto Show. I met a CEO at that auto show, and then I
Mhm.
became the office everything for a company called Analyte Health.
Okay.
Um, it was a really unique experience because I actually would call the CEO every morning, check in on his calendar, look at his emails, and I really learned the business that way.
Mhm.
And one of the things we were looking to do was obviously increase sales as a startup.
Right.
And I saw there was this conversion conference, so converting people down the funnel. And I attended that conference, and it was the first time I heard of product
Uh-huh.
and what product actually did. And at that time, it's very focused on managing an agile. I don't know if it was in the, where it is today with product really leading strategy, but I entered at this company and I changed it up and I essentially created a role for myself at Analyte Health, becoming the product person.
Oh, wow. And so that led you to Lumiere, where you are now?
Yep. In between Analyte Health and Lumiere, I spent, I think, 4.5 very wonderful years with Label Insight,
Mhm.
which was a company, I think I was the 20th employee when I started, grew to around 120 people, and then was required by Nielsen IQ last
Mhm.
year. And I was able to really move up in my career there. I started as the first individual contributor. There was a vice president of product for the team. Um, the team grew over time. I grew into senior leadership roles and a director role.
Mhm.
And then that did lead me to taking a director role at Lumiere at the time in 2018. And then Lumiere was acquired by GHX in January 2020.
And how are you handling all of like being in the office? Are you in the office, or are you having to work with a team that's kind of scattered out everywhere?
So we are fully remote, which was a big shift for office culture, but
Mhm.
from a purely like technical, tactical side, was a very easy transition for us.
Mhm.
Um, Actually, one of the things we first noticed in probably June of 2020, so not too long after we went fully remote, was that development throughput just almost doubled. So our engineers were actually really enjoying working from home. They
Uh-huh.
were more focused at home. And I think it was just, frankly, we had this very open office concept, which is very
Mhm.
common in startups. But I found it hard to actually get work done. And there was just a lot of drive-bys and open conversation. It wasn't hard for our group to go remote at all. I think people actually really preferred it. And then when we started coming back to the office, we actually noticed that a lot of people had moved to places that weren't near the office. And we weren't necessarily aware of that before.
Mhm.
And so we just gave employees the choice. We understand that some people have kids or roommates or whatever, and so the work from home really doesn't work for them.
Right.
We wanted to recreate that work from home office, but in our own office. And so we
Mhm.
went through a large office redecoration,
Yeah.
office revamp
Uh-huh.
process. And then I actually personally live close to the office, but I'm a fully remote employee. And I take advantage of it by
Mhm.
traveling the world and
Nice.
still working. So, for example, last year we went to Croatia as soon as they opened up their borders to vaccinated travelers for 6 weeks. And it was great. Just the time difference really worked out.
Uh-huh.
And I went from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night there. And I
Mhm.
really didn't have to take off too much work, although I was able to. But, you can't spend 6 weeks in Croatia and take 6 weeks off work. So it was really nice to be able to work remotely like that.
Yeah. So how like, where else have you been through all of this? I think that's amazing that you took advantage to travel.
Let's see, where else have we been? Well, my partner Dan and I very much would like to find a more permanent home in Mexico, we think, at least
Mhm.
for part of the year at some time. So we've been able to explore a lot of Mexico, most recently Merida, which is about 3.5 hours northwest of Cancun. Um,
Mhm.
Colonial, just really beautiful. Um, we would love to be able to go to places like Taiwan and Chile. They're on our list. Just hoping 2024 is more the time with COVID is still affecting travel. So I think at this point, we're probably going to return to Mexico in April again for another week and look around the Oaxacan coast
Mhm.
to see if that's a place that we want to end up.
Oh, nice. So, as a woman in tech, this isn't an industry that we see a lot of women in. It is getting better. What kind of advice would you give a young woman who's thinking about going into this field?
Yeah. Be bold, know your worth. Like I said, I just changed my title. I just did it. I said this is what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to do it. Be very aware of when you see those, people who say things to you that maybe maybe aren't appropriate. For example, one time I had a boss tell me, I think you should be wearing a collared shirt every day. I'm not really sure if you've seen women's business clothing, but actually, most of women's business clothing isn't collared every day.
Right.
And so, I had to sit down with him. He also said to me one the time, like, I'd really like for you to be more like Dan. He's really the man. And I just don't think people are necessarily aware of that type of language when they say it. It's like, well, I can't actually ever be a man. I can't be the man, but I would love to be, the person for
Right.
your organization, and I would love to exude the skills that they have. So let's
Mhm.
focus more on that
Yeah.
versus what I wore to work today or being being the man.
Yeah. Been there, done that. Have that T-shirt many times over. Completely
Right?
understand. Yes. So, tell me, what inspires you?
I'm really inspired to work on products that have a strong mission statement.
Mhm.
GHX is really looking to change healthcare from the inside in. I think that we all feel the strain of the American healthcare system and how much worse it's actually gotten after COVID. 20% of nurses have left the field over the last 2 years. And so GHX as a whole is really trying to improve healthcare from the inside out, really through the supply process, which
Mhm.
is a huge cost for hospitals. When I worked at Label Insight, it was really mission driven in that it wanted to give people more insight into the foods they ingested and the products that they used on their bodies.
Mhm.
So for me, it's really working on a mission driven product. And then second to that, it is working for a product driven company.
Mhm.
And I think it really dovetails nicely. A product driven company does things like gives their employees autonomy
Mhm.
in decision making and really brings them into the solution space and not just hands down direction from top down. And
Yeah.
I think more and more that's what we're hearing within the industry. And so sometimes when I have a tough day, I say to myself, well, you know what? I was a good boss today.
Mhm.
And that is something I accomplished today. And that's really motivating for me.
Oh, I love that. Well, Abbie, thank you so much for stopping by, how she got
Yeah.
there and talking to us, and best of luck in the future. And everyone, if you like what you heard, make sure you hit subscribe, and we will have new podcasts every week.
Just